Looking to transform your family game nights? At Perfectly Picked Games, we specialize in family games that bring everyone closer. Our games aren't just fun. Kids and teens will learn how to take turns, develop basic strategy skills, and understand the thrill of winning and grace of losing. With our exclusive gift of games, you can give months of gaming excitement to your family. Choose a 3-month or 6-month gift, and we'll deliver hand-picked family games to your doorstep every month. And here's the best part. Right now, you can use the promo code GOLDENMOJO and receive 20% off your selected plan. Don't miss out on this exclusive offer. Use promo code GOLDENMOJO and save 20% today at Perfectly Picked Games.
All right, Gunnar and Scott, let me ask you this. Now, since we're doing this pretty much a Marvel show and an episode, I should say, forgive me, which Avenger would you want to narrate your life? Because I'm going to go with Hawkeye. I feel like he would just do a fantastic job of following me from afar and just like giving me like a Batman vibes the whole time, but able to really just see everything from afar and see everything that I see. I think that would be really cool. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, mine isn't technically an Avenger, but what the name that comes to mind is Lewis from Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like his recaps in Ant-Man are the best thing ever. So I would want him to narrate my life.
Dang, that's a good
That's
one.
so good. That's perfect.
That is great because he does that great monologue at the end and in the beginning. Oh, man, good one. What about you, Gunnar?
I'm going Thor. Get Chris Hemsworth on there.
You just want the accent.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that too. But I just think Chris Hemsworth has the perfect voice to narrate someone's life.
And then, yeah, go
I think
Scott.
it's still around. Chadwick Boseman would have been a great one to narrate
man,
that voice.
Who's the I can't think of the name of the character from What If.
Oh, Jeffrey Wright, the Watcher.
Yeah, the Watcher.
Oh yeah,
that'd be
Jeffrey Wright.
That's the perfect answer.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, for sure.
But I like.
And then if we had to live within a comic, MCU DC comic book, which one are we living in? Because I feel like if we go Batman, there's going to be a lot of chaos and carnage in there. But I don't know. I think it would be kind of neat to do like I'm thinking more like Thor being in Asgard, and I think that would be good.
I definitely would not want to live in Gotham City anywhere near where the Joker could ever be. Just rule me out. Wouldn't want to go there on vacation. Never go there ever. I keep going back to Wakanda. I think being in Wakanda, Black Panther would be a really cool place to live.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
All the technology.
Yeah.
My first thought was Gotham City. I wouldn't mind being a Detective Gordon or something in Gotham. Why not?
I would never, ever visit you ever.
Yep, I agree.
Nope.
We'll go over to Star City and hang out with the Flash.
Yeah.
Love it. That's great.
All right. Yeah, man. I just know that there's other podcasts within the empire that's just trying to keep up with us, and I figured we might as well just start putting our 2 cents in. So here we are, just trying to make the world a better place here, one pot at a time.
One pot at a time.
Let's do this. Cut. I don't know. Keep it. I don't care.
I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep this part too. I absolutely love Miley Cyrus.
Give me some sugar.
Say hello.
I see you coming down the
What's
aisle.
up there, call boys?
Break me in the mouth. Yes.
You have failed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Call Guys podcast. I'm Gunnar, also known as Chico Noise, 3-time podcast host, and alongside me, as always, it's my good friend Juan Hawkeye 43. And we have a very, very special guest on the pod with us tonight. This is Scott Haan. Now, Scott, Colton and I have been kind of hiding from our viewers why you are here. because they know how big of Marvel fans we are, and obviously we know how big of Marvel fans we are. So,
Good one.
would you would you care to explain a little bit of why you are here and how you made it and how we found you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I am here because I'm also a lifelong Marvel fan, going back as long as I can remember. I have a huge comic collection. Um, and eventually that obsession led me to becoming an extra in the first Avengers movie from 2012. So if you pause it at the exact right moment and don't blink, you can see me in a couple shots in the scene where Loki makes the crowd kneel down in Germany. And then Captain America and Iron Man swoop in to save us. I'm in that scene, and you can see me a few times very briefly. But that's my kind of Marvel claim to fame, as pathetic as it is.
I'd claim it.
Yeah. But I when I was like, I think 15 or 16, I wrote a script for an Avengers movie. So this was like in the 80s. This is how long I've wanted there to be Marvel Studios, good Avengers and Marvel movies. They didn't exist. Like, this was back when, I don't know if this is before you guys' time or not, if you know who these names are, but like Lou Ferrigno was the Hulk, and Nicholas Hammond as Spider-Man, and Red Brown as Captain America. These are terrible, terrible movies.
Yes, they are.
Especially by today's standards, but they were all we had. Like in the 70s and 80s, it was all we had. So I was obsessed with them, and I would have loved to see like all these awful characters cross over. So to get where we are now, where we have like Oscar-winning actors in these roles, and they're so good, and special effects are where they need to be. It's like a golden age for me, and I'm just eating it all up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess the last part of the question was how did I come to your attention? And that's because I work in Purdue College of Agriculture. I work in the office pretty close to Gunner's sister, Sam.
No, Colton's sister. Yeah.
Oh, Colton's. I'm sorry.
Colton's. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're good. I don't claim her anymore. Scott, I don't claim her anymore because I'm an IU guy. So.
Okay. Our connection's bad. I'm going through a tunnel.
Oh god.
Sorry. Yeah. So I struck up a conversation with Colton's sister Sam about Marvel at some point, and this came up, and I guess she gave my information to you guys. So here we are, and I'm happy.
Yeah, because she told me, she's like, hey, there's a guy I work with. He was in Avengers, and I was like, okay, what do you mean like in Avengers? Like that doesn't make sense. And then she sent me one of the screenshots, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I didn't even think about it until like a couple minutes later. I was like, hey, do you think he'd want to be on our podcast? And she goes, I don't know. You can always ask. I said, well, why don't you get a feeler out there for me to see if you might like to? So I don't know if she ever did that. So thanks, Samantha. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
she did.
sounds about right. Oh my, that's too funny. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm glad we were able to kind of talk a little bit beforehand, and kind of get this going a little bit. So we're going to start with a real softball question. Is just tell us about yourself.
Sure. I have lived in Lafayette, Indiana most of my life. Married with 2 kids. And again, like I said, I work in the Purdue College of Agriculture. Purdue is actually where I went as an undergrad.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
But I studied creative writing. And like I said, I've been a Marvel fan my whole life. I've been a theater fan my whole life, and I'm a playwright. And I've had like 32 plays published.
Okay.
And they've been done kind of all over the world. I think like 8, 9 countries now. But my first play that I ever wrote was a superhero comedy, and it's called Insane with Power. And it's about superheroes in an insane asylum. So it was just me writing something silly and stupid, and it ended up getting produced by our theater group and then getting published. And that started that whole little side career.
It sounds like a great TV show.
Well, it's funny because like it ended up like 2 or 3 years after I wrote that and it got published, then Heroes came out on TV.
Oh, that's Love Heroes.
And I think like the mental hospital in my script was called the Stanley J. Kirby Psychiatric Hospital after Stanley and Jack Kirby.
Mhm.
And then when Heroes came out, they had a Kirby Psychiatric Hospital or something, the same kind of.
Nice.
It's crazy.
I mean, they're both just tributes to Jack Kirby, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
not like they stole that from me. Like we had the same idea, but still.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So you say 32?
Yeah, 32 plays. But that ends up being so maybe kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. But when I went to, they had a casting call for extras for the Avengers movie, and there was like 10,000 people that showed up, and they're only looking for like 400. And so I thought, well, there's no way, I don't look like a movie star guy. Like I don't look camera ready. It's a different kind of a vibe. There's all these like models and really amazing looking people there. And but I was there anyway, so I stayed and just tried out. And it turned out I got in because they were looking for actors. So the theater experience that I had, being in like 30 community theater plays and everything, that's what got me in. Because they weren't just looking for like gorgeous people to be in the background. They're looking for people to react and act and, and actually be in the moment throughout even though you're just in the background, you're still.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So did you have like a local civic theater that you did a lot of stuff at, or did you do stuff in high school or both? Or
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Did stuff in grade school and then in high school. I didn't do anything in college, but after college, I met my wife and she was involved in a community theater in Frankfort, Indiana. And so she got me involved in that too. And we did a lot of plays together there. And that's kind of been my home theater, Clinton County Civic Theater, for a while now.
nice.
But yeah, so that became my theater where I did a lot of plays. And then when I decided to finally write one, I gave that to the president of that theater group and said, "Hey, I don't know if this is anything. I just wrote the script. Can you read it and see if you think there's like anything here that that could be developed?" And he read it and loved it and said, "We should get together as a group and like get some actors and get around a table and read this." And so we did, and it went really, really well. And he said, "Okay, we're going to do the show." So like the following season, they put the show on. This is Insane with Power. And it was just like I got to cast my best friends, my best theater friends. We put on stupid spandex outfits and just were silly for a couple hours, and it was the best time ever.
That's great.
Nice.
And it eventually led to me being chosen from 10,000 people to be in Avengers. So it just keeps paying off.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my.
so how did you end up at Purdue? You said it was undergrad. How did you end up going back to actually work at Purdue?
Well, yeah. So I worked at I worked at a family business for 23 years, and that ended up closing. And so when I was looking for another job around here, we love it. We love the area here. We like where we live. Kids were in high school and we didn't want to uproot them. And Purdue is like one of the biggest employers in the area. And so I was hoping to get a job there, and I wasn't looking particularly for a College of Agriculture in specific, but they had a job opening that I applied for and ended up getting, and it's been wonderful. It's a great place to work, and I had the best coworkers, so it's been great.
Yeah.
Been there for about 6 years now. And
Nice.
Colton, that does include Samantha.
Well, I know it takes a very special person to be able to work with to be able to work with her. So you gain a little extra row in sainthood. Um, so oh
Insane.
my gosh. So you're from there. What high school did you go to, and then did your kids go to there?
No, so I went to a private school, Central Catholic High School.
LCC.
Yeah, CC. Yep.
Oh man, I'm sure Samantha might have told you some stories about LCC and me.
No, I don't know if I've told her that I went there or not. I don't
Oh
think I've.
my. Oh my. Well,
So,
you might not know this, but she was an assistant volleyball coach there
no,
at
I didn't know that.
LCC. Yeah. Man, you need to bring it up. I
Yeah.
have so when we in boys basketball in semi-state, my junior year, I beat LCC on a tip in, and then the next year we beat them in semi-state again, back to back.
Wow.
So the lore of Triton and LCC for boys basketball for a short period of time was a rivalry. So yeah, I know exactly where CC is.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll bring that up to her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's where I went. Um,
Okay.
but then our kids went to West Lafayette.
West
Senior.
Lafayette. Okay.
Yeah.
My boss's brother was the AD to one of the big Lafayette schools down there. I can't remember which one for the life of me, but he was the AD down there for quite some time, and
Hmm.
he was always my bosses. They grew up in Purdue.
Hmm.
They had front row season tickets and Mackey back in the 70s, I believe. I
Wow.
mean, they are Purdue people through and through. They've had football tickets for forever and basketball tickets for forever, and so
Cool.
unfortunately, I'm surrounded by a bunch of Purdue people at work.
So is Scott.
Yeah.
Well, Scott's different.
They're everywhere I look. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's too funny. So one of the things we always like to ask here on the call, guys, it's a pretty normal question. It's might be off the cuff, but what are you watching these days, Scott?
Ooh. Well, obviously, so a big sci-fi guy. So I'm watching The Acolyte, um, House of Dragons,
Oh, nice.
The Boys is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, Gen V.
Yep.
Pretty much anything like sci-fi or comic book peripheral stuff I'll watch. It's almost getting to the point where there's so much of it that you can't physically watch it all and have any kind of a life, but
Oh.
I make an effort.
Yeah, you make a good point there, because you really kind of have, it's hard to find time for all these shows now, because there's a lot more, there's just so much out there, and
Yeah.
you almost have to choose which one you're not going to watch sometimes.
Yeah, like when I liked the Arrowverse, like the Flash and Green Arrow and all those shows. I liked them, but when there was like 6 or 7 of them,
You gotta watch them in
it's like
unison.
7 hours a week. I had to drop them because that's like a full-time job. All of a sudden,
Yep.
maybe a part-time job, but yeah, you had to have to pick and choose. But it's a great problem to have, that there's so much amazing stuff you don't have time to watch it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, like what I no, go ahead.
No, you go.
But I was gonna say, I mean, especially growing up when like we got a Superman movie in 1978. I was 7 years old when that came out, and I will never forget it. And we'd get like a Superman movie every 3 or 4 years, and then a Batman movie every 3 or 4 years. Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah, you did get that.
First Marvel movie ever in theaters was Howard the frickin' Duck.
It is. Boy, did they swing for a fence.
Yeah. I'm not sure what fence, but they swung for a
A
fence.
foul ball. It was a foul ball.
Foul. I get it. I like that.
Yep.
Duck, foul. I like it.
Yep.
So yeah, we got nothing ever.
Yeah.
So to live in this realm where every week there's a new Marvel show or DC show or animated movie. I just saw the trailer for the new animated Watchmen, Watchmen Chapter 1, and it looks amazing. It looks like the comic like brought to life. So, spoiled for choice.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Like going from when you were growing up to having so many choices, like very, very limited choices, to now it's got to be like just like the heyday for that kind of like fan.
Yeah, and like I mean, fans my age, like we're like kids today don't appreciate what they have, you know. Like, Superman 3 was like this Richard Pryor movie was just so god awful. But it was a Superman movie. We got another Superman movie, and we're just happy to get it.
Yep. I mean, I
And now it's
remember
like,
going I remember going to see the first Tobey Maguire's first Spider-Man movie in theater and
yeah,
thinking that this was just awesome. And I was like, man, when are we going to get another one?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. That was the summer of 2002 because that's the summer my son was born, and
nice.
and I remember that summer for two things: my son being born and the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie coming out.
It sounds like you got your priorities
I
straight.
I do, I
I
do.
would
I
say so.
I put them in the right order. My
Yes.
son first, Tobey Maguire second.
In case they him or your wife will listen to this.
Yes, I love you guys.
Scott, I do have one question. You mentioned what you were watching. You said you were watching The Acolyte. So
Yeah,
give me a quick thumbs up or thumbs down and a little bit of why.
thumbs up. Because um, it's just I'm glad to see storytelling in different eras of the Star Wars, different corners of the universe, not just Skywalkers, and it's good to see some history of the Jedi and history of the Sith, and I think it's been an interesting story so far. So thumbs up. I like it.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing an episode on that here soon. Colton has yet to watch it because he's heard mixed reviews. I've been the only one so far that's told him I've enjoyed it, I'm assuming. So
Yes, you are. Now
glad
Scott is
glad to
too.
hear you're enjoying it. I'm not the only
Yeah,
one in this world.
I,
So,
no,
but I
definitely.
think Scott hit a point is that I know the biggest thing that I keep hearing about is that why aren't we just doing George Lucas in the Skywalker story essentially? Like, I don't want any other Star Wars outside of like that realm. That's always the biggest thing for someone who doesn't like the Acolyte is just like, why are we straying away from something good? But what your point is you want to see something new.
Yeah, that's you don't just it's like it's kind of like everything equates back to Marvel for me, but you don't want to just see everything modern day. Like Captain America: The First Avenger showed his origin from the '40s, and Captain Marvel, even though it's not one of the best ones, it's set in the '90s, and um, it's explored different areas of this universe, different times. So it's not. I mean, it's no Empire Strikes Back, but I enjoy it.
yeah,
That's good.
I'm on the same page as you are. It's different enough that I enjoy it for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good deal. Colton, what are you watching?
We just finished The Office. Well, we're ramping up for the Olympics, brother. So,
Oh, okay.
my wife is, um, I'm a bit intense when it comes to sports, so she really doesn't like to watch sports with me super very much.
Mhm.
But she is like a diehard Olympic fanatic. Like if she has an off day, the TV will be on the Olympics 100%. We will watch it when I get home. It'll be on until until we go to bed. So, I guess we're just gearing up. Oh, we've been watching Netflix did this short little series called Sprint, and it features Noah Lyles, Shakari Richardson, and some of the other famous 100 and 200-meter runners in the world. So it's like a buildup of the world champions, and it's really really good. Um, not I love competition, and I am not a runner. I played basketball. You got to run in basketball, understand, but I hate running with all of my heart. And I don't know how these people can do it, but they do it at a level that is unimaginable to me. I can't imagine being able to run that fast. and that was really cool to watch. And then we're gonna watch. I think there's going to be a Simone Biles one that comes out. I think it was either today or tomorrow or yesterday when we record this, so it's out by now, and I probably have already watched it because my wife has made me.
Yep, podcast time is weird.
Oh yeah. What about you, Gunnar? What are you watching?
Um, well, they're just the same things. Well, we did finish that 90 show. We finished.
I finished that too.
Oh, you did finish that 90
Yep.
show? Yeah, good little cliffhanger on that. We finished The Bear.
Oh,
act-
yeah, I just watched The Bear.
Yep. Just great season. Great season.
Great.
of that.
I'm angry at the cliffhanger though, because
Yes.
it was a great episode, but I want to know what that review said.
I know, me too. Three shows I've watched in the last what 3 or 4 months have ended on cliffhangers. It was The Rookie, The Bear, and that 90s show all ended on a cliffhanger. But other than that, I did my homework. I watched the Avengers. So we're good there.
I watched that today for the first time in probably a year or so, maybe.
Nice.
I'll be honest, I watched all the way up to the Loki scene, the Loki
Yeah.
Captain America scene, because I just went to see Scott.
That's all I was gonna watch up to, but I got sucked back into it. I'm like, there's actually, I've probably seen this stupid thing like 50 times easily. And even watching today, there's things I picked up on that I hadn't seen before, just, kind of with fresh eyes. So I got sucked into it and finished it. But
Worst things in life that can happen.
I say that's a good thing to happen. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It really was one of our first ever compilation of superheroes movies that it was just the full group
Ensemble.
coming in, and yeah, it's a good milestone in
Yeah.
superhero film history.
And it feels, funnily enough, even though it's only like 12 years old, it almost feels quaint nowadays based on what we've gotten since then. But I cannot overstate at the time like how revolutionary it was, like how how insane it was that these four heroes that had their own franchises and were stars of their own movies are teaming up, and throw in Nick Fury and Black Widow and Hawkeye also, and it was just like, is this even possible? Is this legal?
And then they show you that they can do even more.
Well, yeah, and so for it also to be that good too, like it could have been. There's so many ways that thing could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And for it to be as good as it was, even like I remember like 6 months or so before it came out, there was all these rumors that, or maybe longer than that, but there's all these rumors that Disney was cutting corners, and they knew it was going to be popular, so they were trying not to spend very much money on it so that they could maximize their profit. And I was like, this is not the one to cut corners on. This is the one to go big on. So I know that the fan community was very afraid it was going to be like just feel cheap and feel low budget, because Disney was like, it's going to make money no matter what we do, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So with that fear going into it, the fact that it was as good as it was very gratifying.
Scott, we always go in to see a movie with our glass shattered on the floor. We don't even bring it in half empty anymore.
We've been hurt too many times. Way too many.
Yeah.
This film gave us that. This was our introduction to Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner, correct?
Mhm.
That scene,
Yes, correct.
scene where they go and the good little girl tricks him
Yeah.
into going to check on her dad. That is just great. Love it.
Yeah. And I wasn't really overly familiar with him before this movie. But he just nailed it, just out of the park. I now I go back and watch other people play Bruce Banner. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Edward Norton, Eric Bana, no.
Oh man.
Ed Norton though.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, we know why. I'm assuming we all know why Edward Norton had to do that role, and just talk about why would you think he'd be good for that role? He's never been that like character. That's not his type of character for any movie he's almost ever done. And I
will say I have to somewhat not defend him, but defend the movie overall.
Yeah.
I did like Incredible Hulk. it's not in the top half. It's definitely in the bottom 10% of Marvel movies, but I think it gets some undue hate.
I agree. I have Scott, I have movies that I have to watch from beginning to end. And the MCU is one of the movies franchises that I watch. And last year was the first time I actually included the Incredible Hulk into that watch.
Mhm.
And I didn't hate it the whole time. And I thought that was pretty good for me because I'm a pretty harsh critic on it, on movies in general. And I was like, I mean, yeah, it's not great, but it's like I don't know if it deserves as much hate as it's gotten over the years.
And here again, my perspective is probably colored by like comparing to the past because, in the 70s, we got a Hulk who, when he got angry, he would tip a couch over. And that's how you knew he was strong because he'd tip a couch over. And
Hey, those couches back in the day had to weigh at least
yeah,
6,000 pounds.
steel reinforced couches. Yes. It was like, no, man, the guy grabs tank turrets and flips them around and throws them in like this is, and then the Eric Bana one um was just such a weird mess. Just I liked what they did with like the comic book panels coming in, and they did some kind of interesting things graphically, but the story was a nightmare. So when you compare Incredible Hulk to other MCU movies, it's hot garbage.
Mm-hmm.
When you compare it to previous versions and iterations of the Hulk, it stands supreme.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? That's probably why I liked it more than most people did, because it was the Hulk Abomination fight in Harlem is the closest thing we've ever had to a real like Hulk fight in movies or TV that captures the comics. So
That's fair.
I mean, and look at all the characters they pulled from it. There's reasons this movie is what it is, right? And you get Thunderbolt Ross and you get Abomination, all these characters, and then they're talking about World War Hulk, where they might bring them both back. Well, Thunderbolt
and the
Ross will be
leader,
in it, but yeah,
yeah,
the leader.
Samuel
There you go.
Stern's the leader is coming
Yep.
back in. Yep.
They're talking about bringing Liv Tyler back, and they're talking about bringing Ed Norton back. So, I mean,
Yeah, that cast, I did see a casting for that movie, and I was like, man, if you get all these people with a good script, it's gonna be tough for this movie to be bad.
we'll see.
I hadn't heard that they're talking about bringing Edward Norton back. I would be very surprised if that ever happens, but we'll see. I thought the same thing about Natalie Portman. I thought she's done. We'll never see her again.
Yep.
Oh man,
Colton's favorite.
I am so mad. I'm so mad about the Black Widow movie because it should have been done sooner. And
Agreed.
it absolutely makes me mad every time I hear Black Widow's solo movie because I was just like, this is pointless. Like, what are we doing? I was just, and it's nothing against the movie, but we should have had it so much sooner. And it just always drove me insane. And I think to me, that movie, I was never going to like that movie just because of they failed so miserably with that character.
Yeah, agreed.
Thanks, Gunner.
And then they bring Natalie Portman back in Thor: Love and Thunder, and Colton throws a fit.
Oh man, I talk about looking for a paycheck, Natalie. She knows what she was doing, and I know what she was doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
If they just would have stuck with the comic book for Love and Thunder, Wakiti had literally a roadmap to success. The villain, Christian Bale's character, or is it Gore the Butcher or something like that?
Butcher,
Gore the God Butcher.
Yes, a phenomenal villain in the comic. What the heck did we get on the screen? It drove that movie. That's the movie, Scott, where I walked out of the theater and threw my glass on the ground to shatter it to where I could never reassemble a glass ever again to take it into an MCU movie. It broke my heart in so many ways.
Well, and I was so surprised because I mean, I love Ragnarok. I love Thor Ragnarok.
Oh yeah.
it's in my top. So I had full faith in Taika Waititi pulling it out again and making this one amazing. So that was even more heartbreaking to know what we could have gotten. And like you said, the story from the comics, just bring that to the screen and you got gold. But instead we got poop.
And a lot of happy people watching that movie if it was like that.
Yeah.
But, all right. Scott,
But I will say though, like, I mean, I have favorite MCU movies and I have least favorite movies, but like even my least favorite MCU movies are better than a lot of my other favorite movies. Like even when they misfire, there's still something to me. There's something special about each one of them that's redeemable. Maybe not the whole thing, maybe not even most of it, but every one of them has something that I like that makes me go, okay, at least we got this, or at least we got that, or whatever. But I can't think of what that would be for Love and Thunder at the moment, but I'm sure there was something.
I've yet to find it.
Axel's floating head, is that not?
Oh gosh.
Gosh.
I would think that Russell Crowe would have been Colton's answer.
Talk about what the heck are we doing with Fat Zeus? There are so many questions in this movie that I just don't get. We digress though, Gunnar. Let's we're here to talk about a good movie.
We're here to talk about how Scott was in the Avengers. Well, even if it was for not a whole lot of time, but still
as many more seconds than I was in the movie for.
Yes. So you've kind of answered a little bit of the questions we have for you.
Yeah.
So just kind of leading up to it, what did you have to do to get to be a part of the casting call and then onto being a part of the 400, and then just kind of walk us through where it was filmed and where you were at and what you had to do to get there.
Sure. So I was a huge fan of Joss Whedon at the time. He was doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and Dollhouse and Firefly. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He has since become somewhat problematic, but at the time, like, I worshipped at the guy's altar. And he had a website called Whedon-esque that like posted news about him and things he was working on and new projects and stuff. And they actually posted on there about open casting call in Cleveland for Avengers. And I guess let me go back a little bit and just really quickly say, like, when I found out he was directing it, my favorite director and my favorite property, Marvel, I actually, like, for 6 months, I tried this stupid, ill-conceived, like, letter writing campaign where every Monday I sent Joss Whedon a letter care of his creative artist agency, CAA. It was all like silly, funny stuff, like a fake Photoshop picture of my house burning and me running out of it. And all I saved was Buffy DVDs and, like, but it was just this campaign to like get on his radar and say, all I want to do is be behind the barricade watching you film 30 seconds of Avengers. Like, my life, I would just die happy if I can just watch any of this being filmed. And I did that like literally every Monday for 6 months, and I never heard anything back. And eventually they started getting returned, I think, because I made the mistake of sending a copy of my published script, which I did because I named a character after him a couple years earlier. So it was like me saying, this is how much of a fan of yours I am, that I named a character after you. And I think that put me on the artist agency's radar in a bad way, that they thought I was like trying to send him, material to turn into a movie or do something with, or copy, you know what I mean? Like, when it was just silly letters and funny stuff, I don't think it mattered. But when I sent the script, I think they were like, okay, now that's too far. And they started returning them.
Gotcha.
So I had that whole 6 months where I was trying to just like send actual letters in the mail just to be able to like watch a second of this thing being filmed. So then when Weed Nest posted that they were doing an open casting call for extras in Cleveland, which is about 6 hours from where I live, I was like, well, it's a long shot. It's probably not going to happen, but it definitely won't happen if I don't try.
Yep.
So I went to Cleveland on a weekend. This was June of 21, June of 2011. Sorry. So I went to the casting call, and like I said, there was like 10,000 people there. So again, I was like, well, this isn't going to happen, but I'm here. I've driven 6 hours. I might as well just wait it out. So a month later, that I got a phone call that they wanted me to come and participate in a couple of nights of the night shoot. So yeah, so like I auditioned in July of 2011, and the auditions, actually, I was like in line for 5 hours. So I made friends with a few people in line. There was like 8 of us that were chatting and ended up becoming Facebook friends and stuff. And so we kind of kept up with each other on Facebook afterwards. And like 2 weeks after auditions, one of them posted on Facebook that she got cast and she was going to go shoot for Avengers. And I was really, really happy for her, but insanely jealous at the same time, because I was like, well, she got in and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
She'd done a lot of like film work, and she'd been like in some horror movies and stuff. And so I figured, yeah, it makes sense that she would get in. But when that happened, I kind of was resigned to the fact that I didn't make it, but I tried, and it was still really interesting to be there. Like the person that was interviewing us was Linda Hamilton's stunt double from Terminator 2. So like even getting to just meet her and get rejected by her, even that was a cool story I could tell,
Yeah.
But like 2 weeks after my friend posted, I got a call that they wanted me to come for some night shoots in August of 2011, maybe 3 nights. I'd even like that was one of the best days of my life. I just could not believe it. But they also they needed me for a wardrobe fitting the next week. So the fall, like a week later, I drove 6 hours to Cleveland, did like a wardrobe fitting for an hour or so, and then drove back. And then the next week is when we filmed. And I think most people that did that were actually from the Cleveland area. So
Yeah.
I think most people could drop everything and be there whenever they needed to. And it was a little bit more of a big deal for me, but it worked out, with work and everything, that I could take off those 3 days and go do that. So, so we filmed for 2 nights in August of 2011. And it was the coolest thing. It was kind of a dream come true. It was tedious also, but like getting to see what I saw, it was magical, super cool.
That's awesome.
So it was just the one scene, correct? Which would be the museum scene. And what was your number again?
My number was MX144.
MX144.
MX stands for Museum Exterior. So basically the location of the shot, and there were 400 of us, and I was number 144.
Now
so I'm a little bitter, like when you watch the end credits, like you get Robert Downey Jr.'s name and Chris Hemsworth, and I would assume mine would be right below that, but
of course,
I'm not happy about that. But
so is your name in the credits? I guess
no.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't go through the credits to look. I guess
no, they don't list extras. There's probably, there's 400 extras in that one scene alone. That was like a minute. There had to be total. I'm sure there was thousands and thousands of extras throughout the whole movie. So it would be a 20-minute credit to list them all.
Everybody stays because they're waiting for that after credit scene, so that's all right.
True. And we did get one of shawarma with this movie. So
yes, the shawarma.
Yes.
Yep.
Puny God.
Yeah.
So go ahead. No, it's all you.
Well, I was gonna say, so the first night on set, it was a lot of waiting around, largely because there was some stunt work where they were like flipping cars and stuff. So it would take them a long time to set it up, and then they would film that, and then it would take a long time to undo it and reset it or whatever. So the first night I was there for 14 hours, and I spent 12 of that in the waiting room doing nothing, doing Sudoku, eating, playing, doing puzzles, chatting with other people. So out of the 14 hours, I spent 2 hours filming and 12 hours in the holding room. But the next night was way better because I was there for 11 hours the second night, and I spent 8 hours of that filming.
Oh, nice.
So the second night was much, much better.
Very nice.
So what did that 8 hours consist of the actual filming part? Was it standing in one spot? Were you moving around? What were they doing?
Yeah, no. So the second night we kind of did 4 different shots that second night where I was there for 8 hours. The first thing we did was the shot where we're all standing and Loki yells kneel, and we all kneel. And we did that many, many times, several takes of that, and then probably for an hour and a half or so. And then we got to go back inside. And I will always be grateful for this. I ate food right before I went in that second night. I'm not sure why. I was super hungry and I didn't want to wait for like craft services or whatever. So I ate dinner before I reported to the set the second night. And I'm really glad I did, because we did the kneeling thing, and then took us all back to the holding room. And most of the extras went to the dinner table and started filling their plates and started eating. But he came in like 2 minutes later and said, okay, anybody who's not eating, we need more people out there. And I was like, okay, cool, yay. So I followed him out, and that's when I did the scenes that actually ended up in the movie.
Oh, there you
So
go.
if I just gone with my hunger and eaten some food, I probably wouldn't have been able to see myself in it. But that's when I went back outside, and then I was outside for another 6 hours filming. And so then the second shot we did when I went back out was when Loki did the whole speech about you were made to be ruled and all that. And then the old guy stands up and says, not to men like you. And, Loki does this back and forth with him. That's the second thing we filmed. And then we took another little break, and then we filmed the thing with Chris Evans, Captain America, walking through the crowd and like standing up to him and being like, the last time I was in Germany and saw a man standing above everybody else,
Yeah.
that whole speech. And so I I was in that scene, but they cut away right before they panned to me, so you couldn't quite see me in that shot. But so we got to work with both Chris Evans and Tom Hiddleston in that scene. And then the last thing we filmed that night was shots of all of the extras running away in terror while Cap and Loki were fighting. So they filmed Cap and Loki's fights privately, like with nobody around. But then they went later and kind of did some pickup shots where they were fighting, and in the foreground you see us running away.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
and then it started actually to rain. So they called it for the night, and that ended up being the last that I filmed. But
So where did they film that in Cleveland?
just downtown. It was kind of interesting. I don't remember the name of the hotel I stayed at, but it was really cool because like you would go out of your hotel, and if you went a block to your left, it was New York, because they had like the New York taxi cabs and vendors and subway stations and stuff. But if you went out of your hotel and went a block to your right, it was Germany, because they had the German opera house and like German bus stops, and but like an entire block that was decorated like Germany, and an entire block that was decorated like trash New York.
Wow.
And like just walking around and looking at that, you're like, well, this is why movies cost $1 billion, because it transformed 2 city blocks of Cleveland into whole other cities and or countries. And fed 400 of us for 2 nights and clothed us all, and it was it really opened my eye to why the budgets on these movies are so high. But it was just so immersive to like, it wasn't like, I think now they would do this all with green screen, I'm sure, and CGI, but they literally transformed an entire city block into Germany.
That's wild. That'd be pretty neat to see, though, too.
It was really cool.
So, is there anything that you wished you could have experienced while you were on set? You want to meet somebody that you didn't get to meet? Was there a particular scene, part of the
Not
scene?
really. I mean, saying I wish anything else had happened would really feel like looking a gift horse in the mouth, because
Mhm.
I recognize how this was something I could have only dreamed about, and to be involved as I was in any way was just unbelievable. So, but I got to work with Tom Hiddleston and actually like say a few words back and forth with him. Um, and I got to say hi very briefly to Joss Whedon and Chris Evans, and I don't know what more you would want,
Yeah.
like maybe a date with Scarlett Johansson, but um, that would have had to have been before I was married.
Of course.
Yes.
But by this time it was off the table. But so that can be one of the other things that we cut out.
What? I didn't hear you there, Scott. What'd you say?
Oh man. Well, I know my wife is gonna regret if I don't ask this, but the ladies of the pod would like to know if Tom and Chris were as handsome in person as they were on the set.
On the big screen.
Absolutely, but beyond that, like not just handsome, but super friendly and approachable. I mean, like nobody, um, because I'm so tall, I'm like 6'5", so I was like right in the middle of the crowd, and I was kind of like Tom Hiddleston's eye line. So the crowd would surge forward, and then um, he would like give me a nod every time, and like a good take kind of a thing, and it was really cool. And then Chris Evans, like he was supposed to walk through the crowd, and there was like 20 extras who were told to stand up at certain times, at certain moments in his dialogue. Like when he says this word, this person stands, and when he says this word, this person stands. And we did it like 4 or 5 times, and his timing wasn't exactly quite right with where he needed to end up being for that to happen. And every time we had to go back and redo it, he like apologized to the extras and said, "I'm sorry, guys, that was on me." Like, which was so unnecessary, but just it's of his humility that he like was sorry for wasting 30 seconds of our time. When we're all like, "Dude, you could do this 5,000 times and mess up, and we're fine. It does not matter."
That's good. That's good to know that those people are like that. So gives a little bit of faith in humanity.
Yeah, and they, I mean, even at that point, they were both pretty famous, so they definitely could have been like
Big
not
time.
interacting with the peons. Yeah, but they were just really cool.
That's
That's awesome.
awesome. Man, that's great.
I will say I had heard I wish that Robert Downey Jr. had been there. Iron Man was in that scene, but apparently was all CGI. From what I understand, Downey didn't actually go film that there.
Okay.
So at least he wasn't there the nights I was there, if he was there at the time. But
Does he ever unmask in that scene?
not in that scene, no.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Yeah, no, he
Yeah.
because he comes in with AC/DC blaring and gives
Yep.
Loki a one timer, and
Yeah.
he says something smart to Cap.
Yep.
Yeah. It says your move, reindeer games to Loki with the helmet.
Yes, reindeer games.
Yeah.
So you were talking about coming out of your hotel, and right was Germany and left was
Yeah.
New York. Did you ever get to go left?
Yes. Yeah. So I got there a day early just to make sure that, I didn't have car trouble or something on the way there. So I arrived the day before, and I basically spent the whole day before um, sightseeing essentially in Cleveland, but I got to see them film other stuff like from the Battle of New York during the day. So during the day they were filming a lot of stuff. I didn't see any of the big actors, but I saw a lot of people running away and just some general like chaos was being filmed during the day. So I got to watch some of that. And then at night, then I would go right and go to Germany.
Okay.
So yeah, I got to kind of go to both places.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're 6'5". I would assume, I'm kind of surprised that they kind of have you in the middle. How tall is Chris Evans and Tom Hiddleston?
I don't know. Hiddleston's fairly tall. I don't think he was as tall as me, but the way they filmed it, you couldn't tell I was that tall because like he was in the foreground and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so it wasn't that obvious. But I when they started filming that scene, it was kind of cool because when they started filming that scene, I was in the very 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 back, like so far in the back. I was like, even though I know I'm there, I wouldn't even be able to see myself, and I was a little bit like not depressed, but a little bit like, how cool would it be to be up in the front? But then they did need to fill up more people from the front, so they came and got people from the very back and moved us to the very front. And that's when it then was like 5 feet away from Hiddleston and got to film that stuff. So it was kind of cool because they would film it with us like running forward. We had specific instructions. There was like this grate on the ground that was kind of our mark. So we had to start on the grate and we were running away, but then a Loki appeared behind us and we had to turn and run the other way and then stop when the other Loki appeared in front of us. So we had to do that like 2 or 3 times to kind of get the timing on how many steps we take and how many steps we take back. And then we got a good take of that. And then they brought Hiddleston in and put him in front, and we did the whole thing again, but with him there, so that they could like superimpose combine the two with him appearing in the middle of the scene.
Yeah. Nice. So you're getting a little bit into how they did film some of it. What kinds of things did you notice on set, or the different cameras, and where was the director at? What all did you notice while you were there? And I'm assuming you're a lover of film also, so did you take in any of that stuff that was happening?
A little bit. There was I don't know what it's called, but there's like a director's tent or something that that was just off the set that Joss Whedon was in to look at, like film as it was coming in or whatever. And he spent most of his time in that tent, and then would come out to talk to Tom or to talk to Kenneth Tiger, is the actor the old man who stood up to Loki. He would come out and talk to his DP or the actors or whatever, and then he'd go back into the tent to watch it actually being filmed. But that was just right off the set, so I thought that was kind of interesting. They were very specific about do not take your cell phones. There's 2 things I thought were kind of interesting. They said no cell phones anywhere on the set, period. And one of the extras broke that rule and brought their cell phone out with them. And I mean, it took them 10 seconds to find them and escort them off the property. Like
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
they pulled them right out and kicked them out, and we never saw them again. So like they were on top of that. They were very observant about anybody not having their phones. But the other thing that I didn't see this myself, but some other extras were talking about it, that there was a guy who snuck onto the set, like went under the barricades and snuck onto where we were, to try to just sneak into the film. And theoretically, there's like 400 of us there, so that should have theoretically been pretty easy to do. But one of the production assistants saw him and knew he didn't belong because there was wrinkles in his suit, which is crazy to me. But like the costumes were very meticulous, even though we're just extras. They were very, very careful about the costumes. They were all ironed and cleaned, and so it like just being observant about that kind of thing. I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much that goes on, even probably as an extra standing there, that there's so much going on around you that you just can't take it all in.
Yeah, no, you definitely can. And I mean, you also are like, even though this is something I've always wanted to do, you are an employee, like you're there to work. Um, Even though this is the most fun work you could ever do, but still, like I wanted to take it seriously and make sure that, I didn't screw this up or, represent myself poorly. So I was just trying to, stay focused and be attentive and everything. But so I probably missed some of the fun stuff going on, but I was
Still
just trying
worth
to
it.
take in what I could.
Yeah. Still worth it all around.
Oh yeah.
So taking in what you could, did you get to take anything from your time there? Did you get any like souvenir bags or take anything you might not have been allowed to take or
Well, they're kind of, but not really. So the one funny story is, um, so we're filming a thing where we're all like rushing forward to get away from the Loki behind us, and then we stop because the Loki appears in front of us. So there was a lot of like crowds pushing, and we were running really fast, and at one point I not tripped, but I kicked something on the ground. There was like this black tile, just this little square tile that was on the ground, and big enough that I was afraid like somebody was going to trip over it or something. So I picked it up, I didn't know what to do with it. I picked it up just so it wasn't on the ground anymore. And then they called for back to one, so we had to go back to our places. And like I didn't know what to do with it, so I just put it in my pocket just to get it out of the way. And I completely forgot about it. And then we got back to the holding area, and I was like, oh, I've still got that stupid black tile from the ground. So I still have that.
nice?
That's my only souvenir, and I would, yeah, I definitely wasn't trying to like take something from the set, but I literally thought that could be a safety issue, and ended up with a souvenir because of it. So
You got part of Marvel Germany in your pocket.
yes, and I scanned all the checks and everything before I went and cashed them. I still have scans of all the letters that I got from them, and like the instructions for extras and all that good stuff. I scanned all that and still have all that. So
That's awesome.
those are my souvenirs. I wasn't going to not cash the checks, but I did want to scan them and preserve that ever happened. So
So did you make good money doing it or just like a couple $100 or
yeah, it was about $284 total is what I made over. It was like $80 for 10 hours.
I mean
And,
it's
but no, so
it's
Way
worth
over
it.
money.
you're not going to get rich doing it. And honestly, like, for people in Cleveland, they might have made some profit from it. For me, having to,
Oh
Yeah.
pay for
yeah.
gas and pay for my own hotel, um, and took time off from work, I lost money on the deal, but it was the best money I've ever spent. So
Oh, I believe you 100%.
yeah.
So, Scott, have you had any other opportunities or anything else that you wanted to do since Avengers?
Not really. Like when they were talking about, when Infinity War and Endgame were in the process of being made, like, when those were being talked about, I thought, well, that would be amazing to be a part of because I knew how big Endgame was going to be,
Yeah.
based on how big Marvel had gotten since Avengers, and I would have, that would have been a dream to also be a part of that. But like, I'm not going to look this gift horse in the mouth. I also like it was so tedious, especially that first night. It was just a lot of sitting around waiting. So it wasn't something that made me go, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Good on people who do, but I just didn't have the patience for doing that for anything other than like a Marvel movie or something that I was super geeky about.
Completely understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, trying to think if there's anything else movie wise. I know we have a lot of Marvel questions to ask you since we know
Is
you're a Marvel fan.
is there anything else that happened while you were there that you care to share that we haven't already hit on?
Um, I'm trying to remember that. it was kind of interesting there. So we were in this beer garden was kind of where the setting was like. So in front of the museum was this beer garden. And so a lot of us were given like beers to hold in our hands. And when it was time to run away from Loki, we still had the beers in our hands. And like I was with these three girls who we kind of got paired together. We're sitting at the same table, and then we got moved to the front together. And we all still had our beers. And we specifically asked a production assistant, like, should we still have these or put these down or something? He's like, no, I just keep them. So we're like, okay. So the next time we film, we're supposed to run away from Loki, and we have these beers in our hands. So of course the beers are just splashing everywhere. And so then this production assistant came back over and said, "Yeah, lose the beers."
Yeah, no more.
Kind of figured we should. That's why we asked, but sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity.
There was also like, so when we were walking out to the set the first night, there were barricades, and there were like fans kind of behind the barricades just watching, like where I wanted to be. Like I would have been happy just being one of those people behind the barricades. But there was this kid in the front row of the barricades wearing a Marvel shirt. And I was walking past him, and I just kind of pointed to him and I said, "Hey, nice shirt." And he goes, "Oh, thanks." And he held up his hand for a high five, and I high fived him. And I think everybody around him assumed that I was somebody or we were somebody because this kid high fived me, and so everybody else was like high fiving me. And like, I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I just liked his shirt. That's all.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. High fives are contagious.
Yeah, exactly. People were like, that must be somebody cool. He's getting high five. Nope.
You're tall, and you gave a high five to a kid.
And you're on the other side of the barrier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they picked out the costumes for everybody. And I don't know why, but my costume was like all black, like a black t-shirt, black pants, black shoes, and like this black trench coat. And it was August. It was really hot. And everybody said I looked like a Russian assassin or something. I'm not sure what the point of that outfit was. But I'll share one more story. So like I was really hot in the black outfit, and so we're just kind of standing there when we were doing the kneeling scene. We were just kneeling for like a half hour time, and it was really hot. It was about to start raining. It was really humid, and I'm a sweater, and I started sweating.
Oh.
And this makeup person, I will never forget. I was like so embarrassed. This makeup person came over to somebody who was a couple away from me and had some like powder and took this little tiny little pad and like dabbed their forehead a few times to fix them. Then they came over to me with like this dinner plate sized powder puff. And first of all, had to towel me off because I was so sweaty. And then like in front of everybody, and like Chris Evans is right over there and Joss Whedon's right over there. I'm like, oh God, please do not look this way. I did not want them to see me getting toweled off and powdered like a baby. But there was only two of us that were sweating so bad we had to get toweled off, and I was one of them. So
Well, you were wearing the hottest outfit they could have put you in. So
I was, and I don't know. Nobody else was dressed like. There were some people in the museum interior scenes were wearing like tuxes and really nice outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Most everybody outside wasn't dressed up that hot. So
yeah,
I don't know why they put me in a black trench coat, but I paid for it with humiliation.
the big powder.
The big powder. We got to break out the pancake size powder for this guy.
Oh, that's great. That is great. All right, Scott. So we have some extra questions for you. Just
Sure.
fun questions that we kind of came up with that we wanted to ask. So first, we're gonna go with who is your favorite and your least favorite Avenger?
Favorite, I'd probably have to go Spider-Man, Tom Holland. Spider-Man has always been just my favorite Marvel character my whole life. So, and I think he's great in the role. So,
Agreed.
Favorite, I'd probably go with him. Least favorite, that's tough. Can I say Edward Norton's Hulk?
You can?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can.
Not Ruffalo's Hulk, but Edward Norton's Hulk. And not even Edward Norton's Hulk. Edward Norton's Hulk was fine. Edward
Yeah.
Norton's Bruce Banner.
There you go.
There you go.
We'll leave it at that.
Do you have a favorite MCU villain?
I mean, pretty much would have to say Loki. I'm pretty biased on that. I do think Loki's had a really interesting arc too. He started out he started out really not all that villainous at the beginning of the first Thor, and then we kind of saw what happened to him, and he had a little turn to the dark side, and eventually kind of came back. But you know, of all the villains in the MCU, he's had probably the most interesting redemption arc. But Loki and Thanos are the two that come to mind.
Loki is by far one of our favorite things that we've talked about in the last couple of years on this podcast. Just talking about talking about Loki, the TV show, and just talking about how he is just one of the best anti-heroes to ever really be on TV or in a movie.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal character overall.
Have you ever seen the audition of him actually auditioning for Thor?
No.
No.
There's footage of him in a blonde wig with Mjolnir and like lightning coming down, where he's auditioning for the part of Thor. So he auditioned for Thor and ended up being cast as Loki, and it's just like, to me, it's like top 10 comic to live action casting. He's so good.
Oh yeah.
You know, him and Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Like, you know, I think he's in the upper echelon of the ones who just were born to play that role.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why the MCU did so well in the beginning times and kind of maintained that, is because they kept nailing casting after casting after casting. Like, I felt like they didn't really miss until I'm not a big fan of Brie Larson. I don't think she should have been Captain Marvel. I think we could have went a completely different direction. And to me, that was the first, like, oh man, we really, really missed on that. But that was one thing that the MCU just kept. Oh man, they just never missed. It seemed like they weren't ever going to screw it up.
Yeah. The first one I was disappointed in wasn't actually even like MCU. It was Iron Fist, when they had Finn Jones play Iron Fist on the Netflix shows, but that wasn't really Marvel Studios, so I didn't really blame them for that. But even like the Defenders, they nailed, you know, Charlie Cox as Daredevil was perfect. Mike Coulter as Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, like even those shows, I thought. John Bernthal's Punisher, come on, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson.
And then we got Iron Fist. Yeah, Rosario Dawson, yes, absolutely. Yep. But yeah, Brie Larson's the first one in the movies that made me go, well, you know, this was bound to happen. Like, they had to misfire eventually.
That was my first thought too. I was like, well, someone had to be first.
Yeah, exactly. You asked for my favorite villain would probably be Loki, but the easy answer to my least favorite villain, because it hurts me to even picture it, is MODOK from Quantum Mania.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
The character of MODOK is such a big character in the comics, and like I was excited they were going to try to tackle him, but as soon as he showed up, I was like,
what is this garbage?
What have we done? How did this get on the big screen? I don't understand.
It's like they forgot to like touch it up at all. And they're like,
to try.
Yeah, it's, oh gosh, oh man.
Yeah, it's like all the editors who ever looked at the film before it hit theaters were just drunk or high or something, and thought, that looks amazing. People will love this. No, maybe sober up and then look at the film.
The guy was new. The guy was new to CGI. That's for sure.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine if that? That's your only. That's what you have to put on your resume.
Your video reel is MODOK.
Sir, we cannot hire you.
Were you trying to get this job?
And it's only the shot where he turns around backwards and sees little butt cheeks. That's is MODOK's butt.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah, that's an easy answer.
that's a good answer. That is a very good answer. Scott, if you could have chose another movie to be an extra in the MCU, what movie would you choose? I think we might have hit it a little bit with Endgame, but is there
Endgame.
another one? Okay.
Yeah, Endgame, 1,000%. Endgame. I don't think there's any way any other movie will ever replace that as my favorite movie of all time. And I thought that when the first Avengers came out, I thought, well, this is the pinnacle. Like nothing's going to be ever better than this. But when Endgame came out, and just the way that it paid off 10 years of
Yes.
movies building up to it, and all the Easter eggs, and On Your Left, and Cap grabbing the hammer, just so many moments. Cap saying "Hail Hydra" in the elevator. Like every 30 seconds, there was a moment that paid off something to fans from a previous movie or a previous character, and just the whole thing was just magical to me. Like, and it was the best experience I've ever had in a theater seeing a movie, because I saw it opening night, which had to be like all the diehard fans because tickets
couldn't get tickets.
So like people screamed and roared, and when he said "Avengers Assemble," they stood up, and like there was just electricity in the theater. It was just an event, and it's hard for me to separate like the movie itself from the experience of watching the movie with fans who just were so into it that they were screaming. Like it was deafening when Cap grabbed Thor's hammer when it went back into his hand. Nobody could hear Thor saying "I knew it" because they were screaming. It was so cool. And I'm pretty sure I was screaming too. So
that movie has the best emotional roller coaster of all the MCU. Your ups and your downs through the whole thing. You're excited, you're sad, you're upset, you're happy. Like it's just that emotional roller coaster of watching Endgame, and even still going back and rewatching it, it still gives you those same feelings every time.
Endgame is it for me.
Yeah, that's a good. Well, I want to move on to the big one, the one that I gave you a precursor to, and that is your top 5.
Oh, top 5. Okay. Well, I've already mentioned Howard the Duck. That's obvious.
Put it up there.
Madam Web.
Oh, God.
Morbius. Electra. Obviously, would
put Iron Fist in there. We're just add that to the movie list.
And Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. That's my 5.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my gosh, that Fantastic Four was. Oh my gosh, gives me a headache thinking about it.
I know. Yes. No, I actually really struggled with this because like I have a clear 5, but it almost feels like cheating because it's an obvious 5. It's like, again, growing up, I would have loved to see these big team up movies. So the team up movies are my favorites.
Okay.
Endgame is number 1. Infinity War is number 2. I think I'd put the original Avengers at 3. I'd put Spider-Man No Way Home at 4 because just, again, like the excitement of Toby and Andrew and Tom together, and Charlie Cox's Daredevil, and Willem Dafoe was back, and Alfred Molina was back, and like just again, like this tribute to 10 or 20 years of Spider-Man movies, and as somebody who'd been there for all of them, I was there for it. I loved No Way Home. And then Civil War, or probably my number 5, which basically is Avengers 2.5 for all intents and purposes. So it kind of feels unfair to give those 5 because they're the big ones and they're the big team up movies, but those are probably my 5 favorite. I guess I kind of thought it might be more interesting to go into my next 5 favorite because like taking Avengers movies out of it, My next five would be like Winter Soldier. It's probably
Mm.
number 6.
Good.
I put Black Panther as number 7.
Nice.
The first Guardians of the Galaxy
Mm.
is number 8. This one might be a little unusual for people, but I think I'd put Spider-Man Homecoming at number 9.
Hmm.
Again, Spider-Man's one of my favorite characters, and I feel like I feel like Tobey Maguire was a pretty good Peter Parker, but a terrible Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield was a pretty good Spider-Man, but a terrible Peter Parker to me. And Tom Holland, to me, was the first one who got them both, and I liked him in both roles. So I dug Homecoming a lot.
That's pretty much Gunnar and I's same
Yeah,
same thing.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Toby got one, missed the other. Andrew got
Yeah.
one, missed the other, and Tom has been the best at both.
I know there's some people who really don't like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and I don't understand that. For me, he just nailed it, and still does every time.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I don't get that either.
I mean, he looks the part, he acts the part, and he is acrobatic. He can do the stuff.
Yeah,
That's what you want.
and he was the right age to play high school Peter Parker. He wasn't like 30-year-old Tobey Maguire playing,
Exactly.
So
Hey,
he
when
was,
when everybody else is 30 in high school too, everybody looks the same.
yeah, yeah. When Flash Thompson looks like a teacher, yeah,
Yeah.
Dude was like, man, some of these dudes were huge.
yeah,
We didn't have those dudes when I was in school.
no. And then I think so that would be my number 9 would be Homecoming,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'd probably put Ragnarok at 10.
That's a solid second list.
Yeah.
I mean, the when you get past that first 5, that's when it gets a lot more personal, and your own preferences come into play a lot more. But that'd be my top 10.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that and then compare it to our list because Colton and we've done Marvel recaps over the last couple of years and going through, and we've kind of switched it up if we've thought something decent came out. But
Yeah.
So we have our lists in a Google Sheets where we go back through it occasionally and go back over it.
Yeah.
But you did segue me into my last question for you, with that. And what are your thoughts on the current state of the MCU?
I think they've had a rough couple of years. I think that the mandate they did no wrong. Like everything they put out hit and was commercially successful and critically successful. And I think whoever, I remember the name of the guy who took over for Bob Iger at Disney. Is it Bob Chapek? I don't remember what his name is. Whatever guy followed Bob Iger, like when Disney Plus came out, basically gave this mandate that we need way more movies and we need way more shows. And so we got more, I think we got more hours of content in phase 4 than we did in phases 1, 2, and 3 combined. And it just became quantity over quality. And I think they were just spread too thin. And I really like a lot. I love a lot of what they did. I like some of what they did. Some of it, I just don't feel like they gave the attention they needed to. But I think they're getting back on track. I feel like they're slowing down and starting to limit what they do and kind of focus on, hopefully, on quality again. So I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine might start to be a turning point. I hope.
It's gotta be.
That is I've said that. How many times have I said that, Colton? This
I don't
has
know, buddy.
gotta be the one that turns it around. We see the trailer for Agatha all along. I mean, it's almost like Sam Raimi should direct it. Just by watching the trailer, I was like, man, Sam Raimi should take this one over. But like things like that, and you see the trailer and you're like, man, this looks good. But once again,
I think it was smart for them to only schedule one movie for 2024 because we had 4 or 5 movies a year, and I feel like it was a good decision to slow down and just focus everything on this one. Means there's a lot riding on it, but it's already breaking like R-rated pre-box office records, for pre-sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's in pretty good shape. But I hope that this is the beginning of their return to greatness for me.
For anybody that is stuck along after the, year and a half of disappointment is going to see a lot of payoff in this Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, the TVA going back, changing things. It's just that same kind of concept with a little bit of Deadpool.
Yeah. And again, I feel like in the same way that Endgame was kind of a love letter to all the previous Avengers movies, and No Way Home was kind of a love letter to all the previous Spider-Man movies, I feel like this is kind of a love letter to all the previous X-Men movies. Hit or miss. So I mean, they started out really strong. Some of them were hot garbage, but there were some highlights in the X-Men movies, at least originally in the first few. And so I feel like this is kind of moving the MCU forward, but also again, like the other ones, kind of honoring the past and hopefully in a cool way. So I'm excited.
I'm very excited. Very, very excited for this one.
Yeah, I think Scott, you nailed it again with our takes as well. With your take, I mean, we are. It's been quantity over quality, and it's really hurt. I think you might also agree with this. I thought we should have took a big deep breath after Endgame. Let a year or so, let some time go by before then we would have gone into the next phase. I think that would have helped, because if you would have got fans like being like, man, we need a Marvel movie this year or a TV show, I think that might have helped it not acclaim so much dislike. Um, but yeah, just pretty much the same takes as
The
us.
I think the good part about what they did is they continued Loki's story straight out of Endgame, which was
Mhm.
we all loved it. I mean, I had Loki season 1 phenomenal.
Yeah.
We talked WandaVision, amazing show. And then it kind of goes on that downhill trend. You get Falcon Winter Soldier, it's just okay. So it's like if they would have just done the 2 or 3, we might have been okay. But then they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I would even say What If was better in some of those shows, It just
Oh, absolutely. Definitely was. And like Moon Knight has always been a favorite character
oh,
of mine. So I was psyched when that was gonna happen, and that I was a little disappointed in that. Oh hey. Yeah, nice.
I had a buddy of mine 3D print that for me.
Cool. And my son's a big Moon Knight fan. In the other room, there's like 5 different Moon Knight pop figures and
Oh, nice.
action figures, and yeah, we're big Moon Knight fans. So, um, but that was one of the characters that I was so looking forward to that came out in the era of quantity over quality, and that kind of broke my heart because that could have been such an amazing show. And Oscar Isaacs is great casting in that.
mhm.
I don't know, it just kind of meandered to me.
It did. It definitely meandered. It definitely had that that slow, burn to it. That was like, is this gonna be good? Is this gonna be bad? And then it ended okay, and you're like, okay, I was all right with this.
And again, like my least favorite Marvel stuff is still probably better than my most favorite of other stuff.
Yeah,
So even when they misfire, I still like it. But I that they could have done more with that.
for sure.
So do you have like a quick little top 3 TV shows that they've done off the top of your head?
Of Marvel Studios, not counting like the Netflix Defender
You
stuff.
could throw that in there if you want. It's technically in the realm now, so
I mean, if that's included, the first season of Daredevil was
oh my.
amazing. I just thought Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is another one I would put in like the top 10 of this actor was born to play that part.
Yes,
So a Daredevil would be up there. So I think this might be kind of a hot take, but I think What If would probably be up there for me. Just because the variety of stories they told and the number of characters involved. Again, it kind of goes back to here's all the group stories with all the characters I love meeting, and that they did a lot with that. I think in 2 seasons of interesting stories. Some I like more than others, but I just found I also grew up reading the What If comics.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's probably up there for me as well.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed What If. You get the zombie storyline, you get all the different
Yeah.
things that happen. Oh, just it's just fun, you know.
Yeah. Some of them were darker, some of them were silly, like the Thor.
Yeah, the
Thor
drinking
Marvel
one.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It let them play around with tone, but also just let them kind of show interesting twists on characters that we know really well, and I just find that kind of fun.
Yeah. For sure.
But well, yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I could give that over Loki. I let me put Loki at 3 and What If at 4.
Okay.
Final answer.
Final answer. Well, there you go, listeners. Scott Haan. The If you go back and you want to watch the Avengers, the first, not the first Avenger, but the first Avengers movie, um, and you're watching through and you're on that museum scene and Loki is telling everybody to kneel, make sure you pause on that OTS of Loki looking back at the crowd. Because there he is right there. We will post the one of the screenshots if that's all right with you, Scott.
Oh yeah. Just look for the bald guy with the really sweaty head and you'll see him.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my, Scott, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I hope you had a good time. We really enjoyed this. We've been racking our brains. We didn't want to come on. We want you to come on here and think we were amateurs, or we really didn't want to screw up this interview. So I hope you really had fun because I know we
Oh,
did.
absolutely did. I mean, I'll talk about Marvel with anybody all day, but you guys are clearly diehard fans, and it seems like we're on the same wavelength on a lot of things, and I dig that. So I had a blast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. This has been really fun. And if down the road something new comes out and you're like you want to talk about it on a podcast, just shoot us an email. Now you have
Absolutely.
you can contact us anytime.
Cool.
Let us know. And maybe next thing comes around, we'll be contacting you. Like, let's get Scott
Yeah,
back on here and
I'd love that. That'd be
talk
great.
some Marvel.
Yeah.
All right, Colton, you got anything else?
Again, Scott, can't thank you enough. I appreciate you and your time, your family for allowing you to do this. I know it's getting later, and just can't thank you enough for wanting to do this and being able to do this. So just thank you again.
And of course. No, thank you guys for having me. I really genuinely enjoyed this. So I appreciate you spending some time with me. This was fun.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna get us out of here with some plugs, and we will sign off for the night. So, everybody, thanks for listening to the Call Guys podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. If you want to see Scott's beautiful face, you can go check us out on YouTube. Just search for the Call Guys podcast or click the link in the description. He's shaking his head. We didn't have to powder him. He's good. So yeah, go check us out on YouTube. You can also find us on all your favorite social media accounts: Facebook at facebook.com/thecallguyspod, Instagram at thecallguys, and TikTok at thecallguyspodcast. And you can always go check out our merch store at goldenmojoent.com, where you can go find your IPA shirt, Infant Pale Ale. You can go find your Rotten Rangers shirts from our three-part Power Rangers series that we did with Jess Logan. Go check those episodes out. They were a whole lot of fun. And then if you want to go back and listen to our interviews, Calling the Guys, where Jess Logan interviewed us and we got to talk about who we are and our lives. So, past couple episodes have been a lot of fun. We're ready to move on to next week where we're going to continue our actor series with, wait for it, Will Smith. Scott, we just covered Wild Wild West on a certified rotten. And
Some reason I feel like I want to slap you guys. I don't know why.
So what we do with the certified rotten is we take a movie that is certified, that is rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and
Yeah.
we rewatch it and we see if it's properly rated. And boy, oh boy, that movie, what is that, 25?
It was a 25%. Yes.
25? And I was like, I think it could get to 20.
Well, do you know the story? maybe this is something to talk about off air, but do you know the story about the giant mechanical spider?
No. What's
We want
up?
to hear it. You got to give it to us.
So John Peters was interviewing Kevin Smith talks about this in his
Oh, I do
shows
know
and
this.
stuff. Yeah, Kevin Smith was hired to do a Superman movie, and John Peters was the producer, and he gave him this weird list of things, like he doesn't want him to fly, he doesn't want him to wear a costume, and he wants him to fight a giant mechanical spider. And Kevin Smith was like, okay, weird, but okay. Well, things fell apart. They never ended up doing the movie. But like a few years later, John Peters produced Wild Wild West, and Kevin Smith goes to see it, and there's his giant mechanical spider. So it eventually made it to the big screen, just not in a Superman movie.
Yes, I actually was when we were doing research after I'd watched the movie. I was watching some videos on it, and they had actually mentioned that the whole Kevin Smith thing, and I'm like, that's hilarious. There you go. Fun fact: Wild Wild West. Scott's bringing all the knowledge.
Yeah, I was gonna say we talked about Wild Wild West, and then we followed it up with our 4th of July episode of best opening movies on opening 4th of July weekend. And of course, Will Smith had Independence Day and Men in Black. Men in Black are like his 2 biggest July 4th movies.
Yeah.
So now we're moving on. Next week, we're going to talk about our top 3 Will Smith movies. So make it a Will Smith pretty much month here on the Call Guys podcast.
I'm rooting for After Earth as number 1. It's got
Man, Scott, yeah, you do mesh well with us. So,
Sam did not lie when you said that.
Threw up in my mouth a little bit when I said that.
Gosh,
I love it. I love it. All right, Scott, I do appreciate you coming on and hang out with us this evening, and let us know if you end up listening back to the episode what you thought, and yeah,
we'll do.
Okay,
we'll do that.
All right, Colton, you good?
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, love you, brothers.
Love you, brothers.
All
right.
Easy.
For all those out there in podcast land, see you next time.
Later.
Oh
man.
Oh, I'm sorry my internet cut out a couple times. I hope you can edit that together okay, but I got that message like 3 times, and every time I'm like, no, why? Why now? I work from home all the time and this never happens. Why now?
We're just pulling way too much bandwidth on this. No, magic of editing, Scott, we're good.
Yeah, Gunner's pretty good at it.